Hello everyone, my name is Devin Carroll and I am a member of the customer success team here at JazzHR. And I want to welcome you all to the Starter Administrator training for today. If you are new to JazzHR, welcome aboard. And I'm excited to help you and your team in your first step to success with using the platform. So for today's agenda, we're going to go over some key parts of the application, such as the general layout and interface, to show you where everything is within the application and how to access it. The dashboard, which is an overview of everything that's going on within your JazzHR account. The workflows, where you'll be creating the workflows to mimic your company's hiring process of moving candidates through the flow. Job creation and the jobs page, so you could access the jobs that you have created and all of its candidates. And then finally, we're going to cap things off with screening and searching for candidates within the account. I want to point out some support resources that we have available to all JazzHR customers, such as success.jazz.co, which is our knowledge base, which contains a lot of really great articles on any good how-tos and best practices with using the system. You could also email our support team, support@jazzhr.com, to file a ticket with them. The Need Help button in app has links to both of these as well, and also the question circle at the top of the page links directly to our knowledge base. And we also host monthly deep dive webinars to dive into any particular topics with best practices of using JazzHR. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Okay, now that I'm logged into JazzHR, you see when you first log in, you'll land on the dashboard page, which is an overview of everything within your JazzHR account. You'll see at the very top here, we have some basic information of some activity within the account, which you could click this drop down to filter by 7, 14, or the past 30 days. Front and center, we have My Open Jobs, which is going to list all of the current open jobs which you are on the hiring team for. You have a quick search here for any specific jobs, and then you'll see the job titles, the total number of candidates, the new candidates active, how many are hired, and you have a quick action area here. As I continue to scroll down, you'll see My Interviews for any upcoming interviews that you have scheduled, any latest activity within the account. And if I go to the right-hand side, I have My Tasks for any incomplete tasks that I have upcoming, My Inbox for any communication between you and a candidate, or with any app mentions with the account, which is something we'll go over when we are actually screening candidates. And then at the top here, we have My Watch List for a quick access to any candidates which you add to the watch list, which we'll also go over when we are in the candidate profile as well. On the right-hand side, I have this Need Help icon, which was mentioned in the presentation earlier, where I could use this to search our knowledge base, have a link to the knowledge base, or just submit a support ticket to the support team. Now at the very top here, I just wanted to go over the various pages within the account. So we have the jobs page, which is going to be all of the jobs in the account, candidates for all of the candidates in the account, reports for going over any of the reporting, and for any questions with the reporting, this is covered in the advanced administrator training. The settings, where you'll be setting up your templates, workflows, adding other users, etc. Here's another link to your watch list, any of your tasks, the calendar page, your inbox, the speech bubble here with a question mark. This is another link that goes out to the knowledge base. We have a quick search icon here, Jazz Crowd. And if I click my initials in the top right, I have access to set up my profile, go over the account information, update any billing information, or I could sign out. So now that we've gone over all of this, I'm going to jump over to the settings page. Okay, now that we are on the settings page, the settings page is where you're going to be performing most of the administrative tasks within your JazzHR account. We're not going to really touch on most of this today, as a lot of this is covered in the advanced administrator training. But today we're going to be going over the workflows and the people page. So I'm going to go into the workflows here. This is where you're creating the various workflows within your JazzHR account. Now, some customers will create workflows either based on they will have one standard workflow across all jobs within their company, or maybe they have them tailored to specific departments or job-specific workflows. So to create a workflow, I just click this green button here, give this workflow a name, now you will see here that I have various stages, where I have the new stage, which this is when a candidate first applies to a position or is first manually added to a position within the account. The purple stages are what we call active stages, where you are actively working with the candidate. Your hired dispositions, and then finally we have our not hired dispositions at the bottom here. So this comes standard out of the box with these very basic stages that we have seen over the years that many companies will go through at least a screen, an interview, consider, and then an offer before making a decision. So you can see here where I have on this stage, which is called a workflow helper, for when a candidate first applies, they're going to get this automated reply to candidates. And we're going to go over workflows in a second, but first I wanted to show you how to add new stages onto the various stages that you have available. So it's pretty easy to do this just by clicking this plus new stage button. I'm going to then give this a name and save. Now if I want to reorder these stages for their various orders, I just click reorder, and then I drag and drop. Now everything looks good, and I'll just click I'm done. So you can see it's pretty easy to add any stages to either your active, your hired dispositions, or your not hired dispositions. And while we're on not hired dispositions, we do recommend having more than just one disposition so you could have a better understanding as to why you're rejecting candidates, such as location, or maybe they are just not qualified. So with this, it's kind of good to add various reasons for why you are rejecting candidates so that you have a better understanding of this later on when you're running your reports. Now as I scroll up to the top here, I want to go over what we call workflow helpers, which is the way that we help you automate some of your manual work within your company's hiring process. So to do this, I could just hover over any of these stages and then click Add, where I can add a task, where I could assign a task to various people within the account. I could send an email to either internal people or the candidate. I can automatically add an interview guide, or I could automatically send out a questionnaire if you're requiring more information from a candidate farther along in your process. So let's add a task to the screen stage. And with the tasks, this is a way that you can assign tasks to various people within the account to make sure that everyone is following the proper procedures from within your company's hiring process. When somebody gets a task assigned to them, they get an email notification noting the details of the task and also a link to the candidate's profile for which the task was assigned, so they could easily just jump right in and complete that task. So these can be configured however you would like. So I'm going to say review resume and complete phone screen for this stage. You have an area for notes if you need to add any extra details to the particular person that this task will be assigned. And then you have the option to choose who this will be assigned to. So I have these options here to select now if I want to automatically have this triggered to send to the individual triggering the task, which would be if I move a candidate to that stage, it will assign this to me. I could automatically assign this to the hiring manager that's set up for the position or the hiring team as a whole. Or if you need an option to select from a list of people for either an individual or multiple individuals. You could choose one of these select when triggered options to prompt a list of individuals who could see this job or from the hiring team members. So let's choose that. And I'm going to go ahead and add this task. So anytime I move a candidate to this stage, it's going to prompt me to assign this task to the various hiring team members on this particular job. For the interview, let's go ahead and click Add and Interview. And then I'm going to add this customer success interview feedback from the list of my interview templates. I could just click Add Interview. Now, anytime I move a candidate to this stage, an interview guide is automatically going to be populated on that candidate's interviews tab within their candidate profile. I'm going to scroll down here farther, and I want to show you a common email which is sent out, which is a rejection letter. So this is a way to automatically either send or schedule a rejection letter sent out to a candidate whenever you move them to a particular not hired disposition. So I'm going to add this to this not hired stage by just clicking Add, Email, and then I'm just going to choose Rejection Letter after phone screen. I'm going to assign the recipient as the candidate, and then I'm going to add this email. So now anytime I move a candidate to this stage, it's going to prompt me to either send or schedule out an email for the rejection letter to the candidate. And a good use for scheduling an email is if a candidate just applies today and they're just totally not going to be a good fit, but you want to make sure that you're closing the loop with the candidate. You can always schedule this out up to 7 days in advance, which we'll go over when I'm actually screening candidates later. So now that I have my workflow configured, everything looks good here. So with this, I just wanted to point one thing out, that when you are creating your workflow templates, it's a good idea to create the workflow first and then later the job. And the reasoning behind this is once you go to create a job, you only have one chance to choose the workflow template. So you could always just create a template and then always make edits on this template later on if you need to make any edits. So if you wanted to configure this, I'm going to go back to the hiring workflows here to go to my list, where I can see that I currently have this workflow on 2 different jobs. So any edits onto this particular template are going to automatically reflect onto these jobs that have this assigned. So just keep that in mind when you are going to create your workflow templates and then your jobs. So now that I have the template, let's jump over to the jobs page where I can go into actually creating our job. Okay, so as I go to the jobs page here, now that we're going to go create a job, I'm just going to click this green Create Job button in the top right corner. So when we're going to create a job, you see I have these various tabs here, which are, most of them are currently locked, as first we need to complete this job posting tab. Now, the job creation process is pretty simple and it walks you through this step by step. So the first step we have here is to add the job title. So as I start to type, you can see that we have some suggested job titles here. And I'm just going to click this Customer Success Manager position. And with the job title, you're going to want to keep this around 3 words. You don't want to have any information such as location or salary or anything like that, as our job board partners will note this as a spam job title. They don't like these kind of titles, even though some people like to use them as they feel that's attention grabbing. You could always have all this extra information in the job description, which we'll go over in a second. So remember earlier when I mentioned the hiring workflow template and the relationship to creating a job and attaching a hiring workflow template? So this stage here is the only time that I have available to attach a hiring workflow template to a specific job. So just note that whenever you are going to create the job, to make sure that you at least have the job template created, so you could always go back into the workflow template and make any edits later on which will reflect onto the job. So I'm going to go ahead and choose our Customer Success Manager workflow template which we created earlier. You could always click this eyeball icon here to view the workflow and just make sure that you have the correct workflow attached to the job. Everything looks good, so I'm just going to go ahead and select that. Now as I scroll down here, I have this area where I'm going to add the description. So I could add the job department, and so this is optional. Anything that does not have a pink asterisk is going to be optional. So I could have a job department, an internal job code if I need to have that recorded. Now this is a required part here for the employment type, so I'm just going to choose full-time. And then you need to also choose the experience here. And down here is where you're actually going to be building out your job description. So you have the option to copy and paste something in here, or you could just type this out, or we actually have this job template, which I'm just going to go ahead and insert this here. Now with this job template, we have some suggestions for what you should have within the job description. Our job board partners have let us know that they're looking for some key areas such as a company overview, the job summary, highlighting some of the responsibilities and duties within the job, the qualifications and skills, and then the benefits and perks. And you see how these are also bolded lists here. That's another thing that our job board partners have let us know, that they want to have some of these just easy for the candidates to just glance over, and they could easily scan the job description. So it's just really legible and easy to look over, which you could use this editor up top here to add any like numbers or bullets, any of the formatting, etc. Or if you need to add any links. And then we also have an HTML editor here if you need to embed an image or anything like that. And then we also have a link here for just best practices on formatting your job, and then also another link to some syndication guidelines that have been outlined by our various job board partners. As I continue to scroll down, I have on here the location. Now, for this area, you're going to need to have at least a country, and I would add, if you are in the United States, I would add all of this information here for the city, state, and postal code. Now, we send this information over to our job board partners to index the jobs. So when a candidate is then searching through that area, this is then aligned in the proper location so they can just make sure that they're searching for the right job in the right place. You have an option here to check to make sure if this is a work from home position, and just note with this that these jobs are not eligible for free syndication to Indeed. So just note that if you are having any telecommute work from home positions, they will not be eligible for syndication. Now down here we have a sensitive data area where this is all internal data just for reference within anyone who has access to this job, and this area is only seen by admins, hiring managers, and users that have a sensitive data privilege added onto their specific privileges. So the salary range, again, this is all internal, so you could have whatever you're looking to have here just for noting this internally. And then you could also select the EEO job category to add your equal opportunity questions here to the initial job application. And then you're going to choose the compliance date here. You also have an area here for any internal notes, where you could just note anything for the position that you would see fit that you would need others to just easily go in and access. Then as I continue to scroll down, I have this area where I could turn on and off these various exposure icons, For the free job syndication, now this is to automatically have this job syndicated out to our list of various job board partners such as Indeed, Glassdoor, LinkedIn Limited. The careers website, this is adding this job onto your JazzHR hosted page. If you have a widget embedded in your site from JazzHR. And the public search. Now note if I turn off this public search, I get a warning here where the job will be published, but it could be rejected by free job boards. And due to this, we have just been noted by our job board partners that they do not allow these types of positions which are hiding the company name for their free syndication, because they feel that this is a way of just not providing all of the accurate information to a candidate. So just note that if you are going to have your company name withheld, that it would not be eligible for free syndication. So let's just go ahead and leave that back on. So I have the option here to go ahead and create and publish the job. Or I'm going to go ahead and just click Save as Draft and Continue. Now in this area is where I'm building out my job application for which the candidates will be applying. I see here that I have these candidate profile questions, where these are some pretty basic questions, and I could click this pencil icon to edit these. If I add a question, all I need to do is just click this left column here, and the right column will then add this and make it a required question to move along. So you can see it's pretty easy to just go ahead and add these on here. I'm going to go ahead and save the changes. And now you see they have this LinkedIn profile question which I have just added to the application. Now for the screening questionnaire, this is a way that we allow you to customize your job application for any questions that you may require that are not available in our common questions. So with this is pulling from either an existing questionnaire template which is actually set up in the settings questionnaires area, or it could actually create a questionnaire on the fly. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to give a name to this questionnaire, which this is going to automatically populate from the job title. And then you're going to choose a folder to sort this, which I'll just leave that in the unfiled, and then create the questionnaire. Now it's pretty easy to add these questions, as it's just going to prompt you to add a question here. So with this, you're just going to be typing out your question. You have an option to make this a required question for them to move along with the application. And then I'm going to choose an answer type here. So I have these options, either a single line text for a short response, paragraph text for something a little bit longer, a drop down if I want to provide a set of responses which the candidate will select one, a number, date, checkboxes if I want to give the candidate multiple responses which they could choose, or a file upload option as well. So I'm going to ask the question here. With this customer success manager, we want to make sure that they are a good cultural fit, and on Fridays we typically get pizza all the time. So we're going to ask, do you like pizza? And with this, the answer type, I'm going to select a drop down, and I'm going to add my possible answers of yes and no. Now you'll see here on the right side where I have these flags, which this ties into an area, a feature that we have, which is called knockout questions, where I could actually mark this answer as disqualifying for when I have these candidates applying. I could actually make it so candidates that have answered incorrectly will get automatically rejected. So this is a great time saver for you. So if you have any kind of response that's going to be a definite yes, no, you could just mark some of these answers to be a disqualifying answer, which then would automatically reject the candidate. So I'm going to choose that. And then I'm going to add another question of what is your favorite pizza topping? I'm going to require an answer to this too. And I'm going to add a single line text since this is going to be a short response. And then I'm going to go ahead and add that question. So now I've added these various questions here to customize my application a bit more. And you can see down here I have another area where I can again select the EEO questions. Now I'm going to scroll up to the top so I could show you how I would go about setting up these knockout questions so I could auto-reject these candidates. So here you're going to see that I have one knockout question and there's currently no action performed when a candidate submits a disqualifying answer. I could click this Actions area, auto-reject the candidate. It's going to provide me with a list of the knockout questions. In this case, I just have the one. With here, you're going to choose the disposition that you're going to auto-reject the candidate to. I'm going to choose Not Hired. And then you could also set up to automatically schedule out the emails, such as earlier we set up a rejection email to automatically be sent out whenever a candidate is moved to the Not Hired status. I'm just going to go ahead and set this to schedule out automatically 5 days in advance. So anytime a candidate answers incorrectly, they're going to be rejected, and this email is going to be automatically scheduled to be sent out. So I save this action. And then I'm going to move along to the next step, which is the workflow. So with here, this is really just showing you which workflow template that you have associated with the job. Now with this is just going to be showing you the various areas that you have here. You can also make any tweaks to this job only if you are just making edits here. And then you also have this option here in the actions to either just go ahead and edit the template from the template section or unlock from template. Just note with this that if you go to unlock from a template, it's going to give you a warning that this cannot be undone. So just note that we kind of think it's best practice to keep the templates and the jobs lined up, so then you can make easy edits from the template section, which will reflect on all of those jobs which have that template associated. So I'm going to jump over now to the team section, where this is where you're setting up the hiring team for this position. So here you have your hiring team members set up. And I have this set to restrict the visibility of the job to people with admin privileges and the hiring team. So if I have somebody that is on one of the user level roles, I would need to actually add them to the hiring team so they could have access to this job and its candidates. So I'm going to click Add Team Member. I'm going to start typing in a name, and then you'll see that I could just pull up somebody from a list of the current users in the account. So I'm going to add Brenna onto this job, who is a super user who can now have access to this job and its candidates. Now, if somebody is not on the hiring team for this job, you can always add them to the system later, which I'm going to go ahead and jump over to the settings area where I'm going to actually add somebody new to the account. Okay, so now I'm going to go over to the settings and people page. So on this page, you can see all of the current users that are set up within your JazzHR account. And if I need to add anyone else, all I do is click this green Add Person button. I need to enter their first and last name and their email address. The job title is optional. And I could add a different role and access level down here from this drop-down list. And also track the user as a recruiter for reporting purposes. So with our different roles we have here, you have 3 different sets of roles: the administrative roles, user roles, and our limited roles. Starting with the top with our administrative roles, we have our super administrator, which this is the top level access within the account. Can access all jobs and all candidates. Can view the privileges in the settings here, where you could set various privileges within the account. And the super administrator can view all hidden candidates, all documents, and can also view the billing information from clicking your initials in the top right here and changing that. The recruiting administrator can see all jobs and all candidates. They just cannot see all hidden candidates. If I go to the user roles, these are a little bit more limited than the administrative roles that we have on the account. So the super user actually has access to the settings and templates area where they can edit any of their templates within the account, such as questionnaires, interview guides, email templates, etc. So this is going to be more of a hiring manager type that you want to have access to those templates. They, however, will not have access to any of these other sections and settings, unlike the administrators. And the recruiting user is going to be a little bit less than a super user where they do not have access to the templates at all. So they are just going to see the jobs and the candidates for which they are on the hiring team for. We have these limited roles down here too. If you wanted to add an external recruiter, for if you have an agency that is external that you want to add to jobs, you could actually add them into your JazzHR account, and they have access to those jobs which you have added them onto the hiring team for, and they will only see those candidates which you have which they have actually uploaded into the system or you have marked them as the recruiter for. We have a developer role, which is a newer role that we give you if you need somebody to come in and configure your job board or the integrations. They will only see these two sections. We give you this access so that if you have somebody that you want to come and configure any of these areas and you don't want them to see any of the recruitment side of things, so you could give them this login where they could go in and make these configurations, and you could just make sure that they're not seeing areas where they shouldn't. An interviewer role is one that will only be able to have interview guides completed within the system. So they are pretty limited in access to, they could only complete those guides. So that is a pretty limited role there. I'm going to go ahead for Gene. I think that he's probably going to be a hiring manager for this position. So I'm just going to make him a super user. I could track him as a recruiter. And you could see here where I could also grant Gene different administrative privileges here with just any of these checkboxes. Everything looks good. So I'm going to go ahead and add Gene to the account, which they will then get an email here, which says pending verification. They will need to verify their email, and they will have their login credentials set within this email that they have received, and they could go in and log into the account. So now that I've added Gene into the account, let's jump back over into our hiring team. Where I'm going to need to refresh this page. And then I'm going to add Gene onto this job. And I actually want to make Gene the hiring manager, so I'm just going to click this drop down here and make him the hiring manager. Confirm that change. Now everything looks good to go with that. So since we have this job created, everything looks good. Let's go ahead and take this from the job status drafting and actually move it into open. So now that we have opened this job, it's going to be syndicated out to the various job boards. And you can see that we have some various job boards here. And let's go ahead and browse the paid job boards. If you were looking to add any other just visibility to your job, we give you a lot of options here where you would be able to just click this green purchase button for say like LinkedIn. You could add Indeed credits in intervals of $100. You can see that I have this grayed out here because we do not have a credit card attached to this account. Now this is due to the fact that our finance team would not like it if we were purchasing these paid advertisements for these fake jobs we have created. So just note that if you had a credit card on the account, you would easily be able to go in here and click purchase for any of these options, and then it's going to be sent out directly through that. So you can see I have all of these various options here. And then you can see a list of the various free boards that we post to as well. And on the very bottom, you can see where you could easily share this onto your social networks such as LinkedIn, Twitter, or Facebook as a status update. So let's scroll back up to the top, and then I want to go to this area where I can create a job link. So with this, we give you the option to create a job link where you could create a link for candidates to apply to a position. Say if you were looking to post onto any local boards that we don't syndicate to, or maybe a university or industry specific, you could always come in here and create a job link to direct applicants to apply in a Jazz, so you keep everything all in one place. So you have this option one for no source tracking if you don't want to track where the candidates are coming from, but we definitely recommend using the second option here. We're using a custom source tracking. You could either click Get Job Board Link to grab one of these links from these various job boards automatically, or I'm going to go ahead and use a custom source where I'm going to look for candidates at ABC University. You can see when I type this in, this automatically populates this link below. So you would use this link as the how to apply for a position. So you could easily direct candidates to apply through the Jazz application which you have built for this particular position, and everyone's going to be just right here within the account. So now that everything looks good with this, let's go over back to the jobs page so I could look for some jobs with new candidates. Okay, so we're going to jump over to the jobs page here. And you can see on the jobs page, I have a lot of different jobs on this account. And then so you can see their titles, when they're created, their status, the total number of candidates, new, active, hired. And then I also have some quick actions here. You can see at the top here where I have all jobs. I could click this and actually do a drop down where I can filter by just jobs that I'm on the hiring team for and the hiring manager. So I could go ahead and choose one of these filters. Or I'm just going to go back to all of the jobs on the account. And then whenever you make any of these changes, you'll see here that you just have these options. If I go to needs approval, I could always save this filter as a default. So then it's just going to be a static setting. So let's just go back to all of the jobs on the account, and then I'm going to look for one that has some new candidates in. So let's jump into this night watchman position here. So you can see here when I'm within the job, I have this total number of candidates, and I could click these buttons to filter by any of these too. Say for an active stage, if I'm looking for candidates that are just in the screen, I could choose that. And since I'm looking to actually screen candidates, let's just click New. And we're going to go into this candidate, Alex Mack. So you can see here that I have this new applicant, and then you can see some basic candidate information about them, such as their name, when they applied, some of their basic contact information, what source they came from. And then if I continue to scroll down here, this is the candidate profile where I have the candidate's resume, their cover letter, their job application from when they initially applied, and their profile. So if you need to make any edits to the profile, you could always just click Edit Profile. I could change any of these fields and then Save Profile. And if I continue to scroll up here, you'll see any other jobs that the candidate is on, any categories, which we'll go over categories when we're going over search, any documents that the candidate has uploaded when they applied, any questionnaires, any upcoming events, or any incomplete tasks. You see all these green plus marks here where you could just click any of these to add any tasks, events, questionnaires, etc. And when I go back up to the top, I have a way to rate a candidate with the star ranking here. I could click request comment if I want to send out the candidate's resume to a user, somebody who is not a user within JazzHR, but I want to have their feedback recorded, which would then be logged on the discussion tab for the candidate. I could even send an email to the candidate, another add task, or some other options here, such as hiding the candidate or adding the candidate to my watch list. So after reviewing Alex's profile, we actually think that this candidate is not going to be a good fit for the job. So I have the option here to reject or vote or advance. Since he's not going to be a good fit, I'm going to choose reject. And then it's going to prompt me to choose one of my not hired dispositions I have set up on my workflow. So let's choose not hired. And here is one of the workflow helpers we have set up to automatically prompt you to send out a rejection letter to the candidate. Now, if I don't want to send this, I could always uncheck this box. And then you can see here that I could send the email now, or I could actually schedule this up to 5 or 7 days in advance if I want to do that. So let's schedule it for 5. Confirm the status change. And then when I go to the candidate's emails tab here, you can see that I have an email scheduled out to send to the candidate, which if I made a mistake, I could always go in and delete or edit this email if needed. If I wanted to send any other email to the candidate throughout the process, I could always manually send an email as well just by clicking New Email. And you can see here where I have my name in the top left corner. If, say, I want to have this come from the company, I could click this, and then I can have this come from the company name that is on your JazzHR account. So you see here I have my subject here. I could CC or BCC anyone, and then I could also choose one of the templates that I have set up. And we also have an editor down here if you need to format anything. And then so with these emails as well, you could also use this to schedule any emails out and just go ahead and send. So for the sake of showing you what it looks like with moving candidates through the process, I'm going to move Alex back to the new stage. And then I'm going to actually advance the candidate. So here when I move them into the first active stage, you can see that I have a task set to review resume and @mention HR with notes, which is assigned to the hiring manager of the position. I could choose a due date and add any extra notes if needed, and then confirm the status change. So now I've added the task onto this candidate. And if you wanted to, the task was to review the resume in @mention HR, which the @mention is actually done through the discussion tab on the candidate. I'm going to go here, and then you can see any discussion by this candidate from either, you can see some history from me moving this candidate through the various stages, and you could use this as an area to leave comments. And we're going to use what's called an @mention, which is a way to ping some of your, either a specific person or the whole team. So let's go ahead and ping Brenna. You can set the visibility here to everyone, only you and @recipients, only you and the hiring manager, admins, and you have some other options. So this is a way that you could kind of use this to hide the privacy of any of these if you have any confidential notes that you need to leave. And then when you click share comment, this is going to send this directly out to whoever you have tagged in this @mention. It's going to have all of your comments on there and a link directly to that candidate's profile, so they could just jump right in and go ahead with the rest of your process. So let's just go ahead and share that comment. And everything looks good here. So now that I've shown you moving through the various stages You can see here, if I want to move to any other stages, just click this, and then I could move to any of my other active stages, move them to hired or any of my not hired dispositions throughout the process. So everything looks good with this, and now I'm going to jump over to the final part of this webinar, which is searching your candidate database. Okay, now for the final part of this webinar, I'm going to jump over to the candidates page. So with here, you can see all of the candidates that are within the account. I want to show you how you could actually search this candidate database for any specific candidates that you may be looking for. So I could click this search icon here. Now I can either do, this is the basic search where I could search name, keywords in resume, search within a job. When I choose this, I could actually narrow down to any specific workflow status for those jobs, or search by any categories. Remember, categories that are on the right side of a candidate's profile. That's a great way to tag candidates for ease of search if, say, that you're looking for a specific skill set, or maybe like a great future hire. Those are some common categories that a lot of customers will use so they could easily pull up candidates. Or you could also search by the star ranking that's in the candidate's profile as well. And you could also run a previously saved search up here as well. So with this, I have this basic search here, or I could actually click advanced search, where again I could search by job, status, star ranking, and I could actually add these different profile filters here, such as date applied, and then you're going to set the criteria in the middle. So it sets this to date applied is greater than November 1st, 2016. So you could look for all candidates that have applied after this date. Then I could add any other profile filters here, or if I need to delete any, I just click this trash icon. And then down here as well, you could choose any custom question filters. Now with these, you could search for specific responses from candidates within the questionnaire templates that you have set for a job. So here, I'm going to go ahead and choose this general Jazz.co questionnaire. I could add the question filter. I could add the question and then search for a specific response. So here you can see I've returned 18 candidates with this search. I have the option to save this search for later use. Then I see all of these candidates here. I can click these checkboxes to either add them to the watch list, remove from the watch list. You could bulk delete. Note this says no undo. That is 100% true. There's no way to recover any deleted candidates, so just definitely tread wisely if you're looking to do that. Or you could star rank the applicants as well. So everything looks good here with this, with the search. So I'm going to go ahead and save this search for later. You could also allow other users to see this search. And then I save this, which would now be available to anyone else in the account who need to perform this search. So that about wraps things up for today. Again, I wanted to point out some of the good support resources if you have any other questions, where I'm going to click this link here to go out to our knowledge base, or you could use this to search any of these various areas. We have all of these posts here, or you could use the search to search for pretty much anything of how to do anything within the account. And then at the very bottom here, you also have a link to contact our support team if you need to file a ticket. And so you could just file this ticket here and click submit, and our team would be able to get back to you. So again, I wanted to thank you for joining the webinar today, and you all have a great day.